Good morning and welcome to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. Our focus this morning will begin on a woman who is not only a familiar face, but a staple in the Milwaukee community. She covered news in southeastern Wisconsin for more than 40 years, and she is a proud graduate of Rufus King High School and Northwestern University. She's a founding member of the Wisconsin Black Media Association and a member of the Milwaukee Press Club Hall of Fame. It is a pleasure to welcome to Our Issues, Miss Joanne Williams. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you for being here. Does it feel weird being on the other side of the interview?
It does. It does. I've only been an interviewee maybe once before.
Yeah.
So if I mess up, you'll let me know.
Oh, no. I'm learning from you at this very moment. So as I've stated, you've had a remarkable television career, and even in retirement, you've been inspired to bring something special to the masses. So if you would, tell us more about this journey you've taken on being a producer and director of the documentary film Kaukauna King 50 years later.
In 2016, I was looking through a box of stuff from high school, and I came across this, which was a copy of my high school newspaper.
Okay.
The King's Page.
You held on to it.
It's the only copy of my high school newspaper I saved.
Wow.
And I didn't exactly remember why, but I looked at it and I saw the date and it says 1966. And I realized that this was 50 years ago that this exchange between Kaukauna and Rufus King happened, and there was a story there.
Yeah.
And I was going to tell it.
Yes, and as a reporter, it just automatically like, there's something there.
Right.
And so this sparked your interest in actually finding the people who were a part of that exchange and really seeing how they felt and some of the things they may have learned over the years since that exchange.
That's right. There were 13 students involved in the exchange, and some of them came from Kaukauna and some came from Rufus King in Milwaukee. And I wanted to first of all find them. I found 8 of the 13.
That's
I'm
awesome.
focusing, statistically, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm focusing on 4, maybe 5. I've interviewed 4 of them already, and the parents of 2 of them who were in their 80s and 90s about the exchange and about their experience. And that's what I wanted to find out, what they got from the experience, who they are now, and what they think this play meant to them, because the play was in white America. And a social studies teacher at Kaukauna High School wanted to do this play, and he couldn't cast it in Kaukauna. It's the history of African Americans from slavery to civil rights. But in Kaukauna there were no black people.
Wow.
So he struck an exchange with a teacher at Rufus King. Kids from King went up to Kaukauna, stayed for a month with families there, and did the play. Then the kids from Kaukauna came down to Milwaukee, stayed for a month with families here, and they did the play.
Wow.
And this all happened in 1966.
Yeah, and that is pretty major when you look back at Milwaukee. Actually is still referred to as one of the most hyper segregated cities in America, and in the 60s it was a period of time that marked turmoil and change in the city. So we're talking about the push for fair housing and all of these things, and to have kids from like the Fox Valley area come to the city and vice versa had to be pretty interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, it was for them. The kids from Rufus King had never lived in a small town before. The population was approximately 8,000.
Wow.
The kids from Kaukauna had never lived in a big city. So their experiences were very, very interesting. And when I talked to them, they were pretty honest about how it was for them. And it wasn't all bad. Most of it was good.
That's good. That's pretty awesome too. And what I'm most thankful for today is not only being able to talk to you about this, but to give the viewers at home a chance to really get a sneak peek of everything that you've been working on pretty much for this past year, right?
Yes, just over a year.
Okay. Well,
so we have a little bit of it. It starts with the playwright, Martin Duberman, talking about his relationships and what he learned and sort of how he came to write this play.
And Joanne's so awesome. You traveled to New York, was it?
Went to New York to interview him.
And
yes.
she found the playwright as well. Only Joanne Williams. Let's check it out.
As a white person, I was very identified with the black struggle. I read about it. I wrote a lot about it. I especially I put together a whole volume. I was convinced that the anti-slavery movement this is hard to believe now, but when I was in graduate school, the uniform view of the abolitionists in the historical profession, and what I was taught, I was at Harvard, you know, the avant-garde. I was taught by very prominent historians, and the view uniformly was that the abolitionists were neurotics, to be polite, but they were what they were also called were misguided fanatics.
It wasn't scary. I mean, I was never scared. I was just pretty much astonished at some of the things I saw. You know, you read about things and you know things are happening, but at the same time, it was just so blatant that I was just flabbergasted that teachers would behave the way they did.
This exchange program proved to be the greatest thing of my high school years, and I think it helped me enormously, mainly because I got into a group of other kids when we developed a kind of family-like sort of thing that we had going there, because we were doing this play together and then going down to Rufus King, and it was just a really neat thing. And and then the experience of being in this, it really kind of tore away the kind of bubble I was in as far as coming from small town Kaukauna and from a more middle class background, and then moving into, you know, in the inner city.
My homeroom teacher was a lady by the name of Ruth Thomas. Ruth Thomas, I mean, I look back 50 years now and I'm going, here was a lady that was well ahead of her time. She was taking these little bitty black kids at Rufus King High School and making them do things. And maybe we were an experiment for her, make us look at life differently. And this was an opportunity to look at life differently.
And I was like, oh no, where is Kaukauna? And she says, yeah, but it's going to be just a wonderful experience. You can always try it, and then if anything happens, you can call, you know, phone home, and, you know, I'm sure someone will be there to get you in no time. And so it was like, well, this does sound interesting. Be something new and different. Why not?
Considering that Kaukauna is a pretty conservative town, maybe not. Maybe this proves it's not. This took place in Kaukauna, small town Wisconsin.
That was pretty amazing.
Did you like it?
Yes, it's so interesting. And like I said, this is just a sneak peek, so I would be very interested in really being able to get the overall view of everything you're able to capture from this experience. So watching this, what type of emotions do you have?
This is a labor of love for me.
Yeah.
This has become my passion. And I've learned from other filmmakers that when you get into a film like this, you think about it when you wake up in the morning, you think about it when you go to bed at night. Mm-hmm. And I do too. And I get very emotional when I watch these interviews, because I now know these people very, very well, and I want to tell their story. So I want you to feel what they felt, mm-hmm. and I want you to understand how this changed their life. It definitely did. Yeah. And how it was an experiment in race relations that worked. Phyllis, the last woman you saw there, mm-hmm. before you saw Joe and Joe's parents, Phyllis's mother was also interviewed. She's 91.
Wow.
And she said that when she had the exchange student, who was Linda, living in her house, she would get up in the morning, she'd fix breakfast for them, and she'd send them off to Rufus King High School, Phyllis and Linda. And she said Phyllis would kiss her on this cheek and say, thanks, Mom. And she said Linda would kiss her on this cheek and say, thanks, Mom. And she said, you know what? It felt the same.
Oh, I love that. And, you know, when we talk about race relations in America in this day and age, it's this kind of reminder that, you know, there is hope, right? And there was hope 50 years ago for people who were open to going to a city that they were unfamiliar with, living in a home of people that they were unfamiliar with, and it pretty much was a positive experience for them all.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was. So that's the story I'm going to tell about Kaukauna King 50 years later, and then the play was redone at Rufus King High School.
Yes. And
last
were you
November.
able to show this reenactment to the playwright himself?
I showed some of the video
Okay.
of the student actors to him, and he thought they were very good. He liked it a lot. He sent us some new material. When I got in touch with him, he sent a new scene and some new dialogue to go with the play, which they incorporated into the production. So he was very happy with it. He said, these are some talented kids.
Yeah.
So I'm glad he was happy with that. Now we go back to Kaukauna. We talk to some more people there. We find out who remembers there. And that will round out the entire film when we get it done.
Yeah, and you're like really, whatever amount of time it's taking you to get this done, the way you envision it is what it's going to be. So do you have a prospective date that you, or are you just kind of like, when I'm done, and I'll let you guys know?
No, there are some deadlines I have to
Okay.
meet. There's some deadlines I have to meet with my the people that I work with. So my goal is fall of 2018.
Okay, okay.
So it'll be a 2-year project, and we're about 55 to 60% shot. I'm starting to write. We're still doing research, and I'm still doing some shooting. I'll be going back to Kaukauna to shoot again. But my goal is maybe July, August of 2018. It'll be ready for you to see on a screen.
I love that, and really I think with all of the things that you said was a mission as far as putting this documentary together, and just seeing this sneak peek, I think it's safe to say mission accomplished, really.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you,
yeah.
thank you. And I have to thank, Milwaukee Film, who sort of got me involved in this, Jonathan Jackson, who encouraged me to do this, and then the Brico Forward Fund. I won an award from them.
Wow.
Only the second time they've given out these awards. I was one of, I think, half dozen filmmakers who won this financial support, which is very important to get a film done.
Oh yeah.
And the team that I pulled together, I have a cinematographer who's working on it, Ross Monacle. Debbie Paschke, who you've interviewed here on your
Yeah.
program, is my producer.
I love
Kathleen Tank, another friend of mine from Fox 6, is my production manager. And then Rob Smith, who's a PhD in history at UWM, is my academic history advisor and part-time grant writer. So
Yeah.
I now have a team working on it.
A very
which-
good team.
A very good team, a very dedicated team.
Absolutely. So I think this is wonderful, and I do want to remind all the viewers that they can still see you, of course, on Black Nouveau, doing what you do. And it's really just awesome to see you be able to have such a wonderful career, and then, like I said early on, be able to retire and still do what you love to do and make a difference in the lives of so many people while doing it.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes.
I'm doing my best. This is what I do in retirement.
Yeah, and I want to be just like you. Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure, and you don't look a day over 25, so you're going to have to share those tips with me, too.
Well, we'll talk about that later.
All right. Joanne Williams is the producer and director of the documentary film Kaukauna King 50 Years Later. When we return to Our Issues Milwaukee, we'll switch gears and talk to a local politician whose goal is to not only propose policy that will create change for his constituents, he's also interested in teaching financial literacy. We'll talk to Representative Jason Fields from the Wisconsin State Assembly right after this.